36,174 days later, the Pistons have finally won a playoff game. The last time they won was the day after my 11th birthday. So, celebrating my 28th next month. So, yeah, man, absolutely crazy times. Great time to be a Pistons fan. Incredible performance by Cade Cunningham and the crew. And now from here on out, the exciting thing for the Pistons and the scary thing for the Knicks is this Detroit team has absolute no pressure from here on out. It is house money. Whatever happens from this point on, it is absolute luxury for them. So it's going to be a great series to see this come back to Detroit and to go get home court advantage too. That's huge.
Yeah, it really is. Before you came on, I was kind of talking about Tobias Harris and his impact and having a double double, and I thought he did such a great job of not only taking the challenge of defending Cat certain possessions, but defending without following. I thought was so huge. I don't know about you, how much you were able to watch the game, but what did you kind
Yep.
of just make of Tobias Harris tonight?
I thought Tobias has been awesome this entire series, but in particular tonight, I thought showed kind of why he was someone that the Pistons were so adamant on bringing back into their franchise. Because in the first game, he did a lot of it with his offense. Especially in that first half, he came out and he was scoring at a really high clip and playing at a really high level. He still had 15 points in this one, but really the impact that was felt from Tobias tonight was his defense, the way that he was guarding Carl Anthony Towns. He's 6'8", 226. Tobias is a lot tougher than people give him credit for, or might even recognize. People might even recognize. So I thought the level of physicality that he came out and played with was really solid. And like you said, the fact that he came out and was physical, but physical without fouling. And I thought the team as a whole, for the most part, did a really good job of that. Obviously, as the game went on, Asar started to struggle a little bit more, keeping out of foul trouble. It's always tough when you're guarding Jalen Brunson, especially with how egregious he got towards the end with some of his tactics and the ways in which he was trying to draw fouls. Like I even tweeted towards the end, like that wasn't even a basketball play. Like that was a straight up foul baiting play. And then Duran, obviously towards the end, he had 5 fouls, but for him to only be at 5 fouls in almost 37 minutes without any Isaiah Stewart and in that environment, I thought he played a really good game too. So the big thing is, for Tobias is this time last year, he was the laughing stock of NBA Twitter, of Sixers Twitter. He was seen as the quote unquote cancer of the team. And the theory was once you removed him and replaced him with someone who was perceived as better, then their team would be would be completely better. It has gone the exact opposite direction. And now you have a Detroit group that absolutely loves him, but also absolutely needs him. And I think there's something to be said. I've made jokes about it before, but there's something to be said about being able to perform at your best when you're actually respected by where you're at, whether it's from the fans, your teammates, social media, whether, it's being embraced and being in the right role. I just think this is the perfect fit for Tobias. And because he's accepted for who he is and who he isn't in Detroit, I think that allows him to be the best version of himself. And I think that's what you're seeing on full display.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Philly point because, like, I thought, watching from afar, obviously, we saw him in his first stint in 2016. And even back then, he was a very serviceable player. He's obviously gotten way better as he's gotten older. He's kind of aging like fine wine because
Yep.
being able to do that at 32 years old, I know 32 to us is young, but in like basketball years, it's kind of old. You're kind of viewed as like a unk or a veteran. But I think his first two games in these playoffs, I think the narrative with his name is completely gone out the window.
Well,
Game one gave him a chance to win the game, and in
mhm.
game two, getting crashing the glass, getting double digit rebounds against the team that was playing Mitchell Robinson and Carl Anthony Towns, I think is really impressive.
Well, and you mentioned like Tobias, like he's only 32, but this is year what, 13, 14 for him now. He's played a lot of minutes. He's almost getting to like Al Horford territory of being like an elder statesman of the NBA, you know? And honestly, I could almost kind of see him being on an Al Horford trajectory with kind of like how his game ages and the way that he can play kind of like later into his years. Cause it's not like his athleticism is what his game's predicated on, you know? So I just again I thought he was absolutely brilliant. And again, all of his teammates just absolutely love him. And for him to come out and lead the team in minutes and play to the level that he did, like he's been the stable figure this team has needed on and off the court.
Yeah, it's honestly because I know me and you, we both had our opinions about Tobias Harris's offseason. Obviously, there are some other people, that have podcasts, have live shows like this that weren't the biggest Tobias Harris, fans, and I'm not going to call those people out. They know who they are if they're watching, but um, he impacts winning. He's impacting
Yep.
playoff basketball right now, and he's helping them win. I did want to talk about another veteran, and it's a player that me and you talked about during the NBA trading deadline. That's Dennis Schroeder. I thought
Yeah.
Dennis Schroeder was, in my opinion, outside of Cade, probably the second best player on the court. They needed all 20 of his points tonight.
He was the most important Piston down the stretch. I mean, he had his game, he had his shot going in the fourth quarter to match some of those big threes that the Knicks were hitting and to have the confidence to take some of those shots. Like I think, like I mentioned earlier, like this is his third team in this season. And he's been bounced around a lot. He's been traded a lot. He's been given up on a lot. So to come into a team just over 2 months with the franchise in one of their most important games in the last 2 decades and hit those shots was was sensational. And he did things in his first two playoff games that guys like Reggie Jackson will never be able to say that he could do in a Pistons uniform, you know? And so at the very least, I think Dennis Schroeder is going to have free beer for the rest of his life if he ever goes out in a bar to Detroit to be able to help and break that drought and break that historic playoff losing streak. But we've talked before about like the big key this playoffs was who could replicate some of that, some of that second option shot creation without a Jaden Ivey. And Dennis Schroeder, like he almost entirely replicated his output tonight. He was like 80-90% of what you would get from like a normal Jaden Ivey like regular season game.
Yeah, I mean, I I I didn't really expect him and Malik to have off games, but I think when Dennis realized that, Malik isn't hitting his normal, shots that he usually hits. Tim is hot and cold. You never know what Tim Hardaway Jr. you're going to get. And I think that's kind of the frustrating thing about him as a player, but we love him. He's like, you know what? I gotta be that second option right now. I gotta get us going. And he did have one three that I didn't think was gonna go in. It bounced like 5 feet off the rim and went back in. And I screamed at my TV so loud when it went in. I was excited, but just to have his impact, you're right. Like a lot of people have talked about Jaden Ivey being that secondary option next to Cade, but Schroeder's just like, hey, I can fit into a secondary option next to Cade Cunningham. I can help us, get a good 15 to 20 points. He had 20 points tonight against the Knicks, and it was wild. I don't know if you saw it. I feel like every play he was getting shoved by the Knicks, like, and he was
Yep.
on the floor. I was like, bro, what is going on?
And he, he actually he's like an underrated defender as well. I thought he played really well on Brunson, all things considered. Obviously, Brunson still went out and did his thing, which to a certain point, a guy like that, it's like Cade. You're only gonna contain a guy like him for so long, right? Like he's gonna go out, he's gonna get his. But I think, I think Schroeder's an underrated defender for what he's able to do and what he brings to the table. And I thought he made Brunson pretty uncomfortable at multiple points tonight. And like you said with like with Malik and Hardaway, like I think Mikal Bridges actually did a really good job defending Malik tonight. I think there were obviously some open shots that Malik just has to hit that he didn't hit, but like Malik made his window to or Mikal made Malik's window to release a lot quicker than it normally is. And he's a guy that can operate and hit when he has a quick window, but when you have that guy who has that type of length, that's contesting you at the 3-point line, that can make your shot a lot harder to hit, even for an elite, 3-point shooter like Malik. And like you said with Tim Hardaway, it is kind of one of those things where it is a total heads or tails thing. Like sometimes you're like, man, how is this guy not like a 20+ million a year guy, like without even a second thought? And then there's nights where it's like, wait, Tim Hardaway was playing?
Yeah, it's just like I told fans in the beginning of the year, I said, "You guys are gonna love and hate Tim Hardaway." It's the full experience, and you just have to kind of uh, go with the ride. It's a roller coaster because when he's hot, and when he's not, it's really noticeable. But it's a really good point by you bringing up, Mikal Bridges and the type of defender he is, the way he uses his length. And then, Malik did have a couple opportunities to kind of curl off a screen and hit a three. I think he hit one or two of them tonight. I think he had like 9 points last time I looked at the box score. I don't know if that's accurate or not because I was
Yeah,
kind of
he had 9 points. He was 2 and 9 from the field, but he was 1 of 8 from three.
Yeah, like that's not a Malik game. I expect him to have a much better game on Thursday, especially being at home. I don't know if you saw the Pistons social team. They're going crazy. Absolutely love it.